Yes, after 4 years of absence, I have in fact returned to YouTube. Although for how long, I can't exactly be certain because last time I said, hey guys, see you in 2 weeks. And we all know how that turned out, don't we? I'm so sorry. So a couple days ago, I saw a movie called The Revenant, directed by Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu. Fucking shit, cockphone, sick duck. I am so confused. I don't give a fuck. Starring the always worthwhile Leonardo DiCaprio. One of the most one of those lauded and awarded movies of 2015. Won Best Director Academy Awards, Best Cinematography at the Academy Awards. And I have to say, I did not like it at fucking all. It's a strange thing because I saw it for the first time a couple months ago when it came out. And I didn't like it then. But over the course of a couple months, of course, rolling with the hype, things of that nature, through some kind of strange, fucked up psychological waterboarding technique, I managed to convince myself that no, Spencer, of course you liked it, It's just, it was so bleak. You were just alienated by it the first time. You actually thought it was brilliant. You appreciated every moment of it. It was bold, never before seen cinematic undertaking that was simply too much for you the first time. You didn't know how to handle it, so your gut response, your defense mechanism, if you will, was to dislike the movie. I mean, what am I, some kind of movie pussy? Quote Peter Travers, Rolling Stone. First and foremost, this movie is 157 minutes long. That is over 2.5 hours, which is no issue, innately. But if you were to make a movie at that length, you are not to make it as cold and distant and utterly, I have to say, empty, both emotionally and intellectually, as this movie is. And no, I'm not pretentious. This is not a case of me building my own head. Spencer directs his own movie. Oh, this movie just didn't live up to what you wanted from it. No, I'm perfectly capable of molding myself and my expectations over the course of a movie screening, of the watching of a movie. And this, every time I tried to go with it, every time I tried to find a point of emotional attachment to it, it just alienated me again and again with this unbelievable violence. Again, violence is no issue. But if you're going to have something that is this deliberately grotesque, I expect it to mean a hell of a lot more than this ultimately does. I mean, what this ultimately is what? It's basically a Charles Bronson movie. Is that in the fucking, early 1800s? Now that may be enough for some people. But the way it's made, the way it's shot, the way it's mounted, seems to imply that it has loftier ambitions. Ambitions that it never really fulfills. In every camera movement, in every swell of the score, seems to suggest that it is bold. It's showing you something you've never seen before. And in some respects, it shows you things you've never seen before, visually. But in terms of what it's saying, what those things represent, what it's all supposed to come together to say, it's just, well, hey, that's all, folks. Dun, 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 dun. And when I hear people saying, best film of the year, best, most bold movie that has been made in the year 2015, I have to say, look, mate, just because something is bold in vision does not mean that that vision is in service of a whole hell of a lot. And I walked out of this movie not once, but twice, thinking exactly that. Thinking, wow, this is very gorgeously made, very beautifully mounted. It takes a kind of egomaniacal sense of commitment to make a movie like this, I have to say. But to what end? Okay, so this movie cost $135 million. Of course it looks fucking beautiful. Of course it's beautifully mounted and bold. At that price tag, it had fucking better be. And of course, there are going to be people who say, no man, you just don't get it. It was above your pay grade. It was above your fucking intellectual threshold. It's all about like the brutality of mankind versus like the uncompromising nature of nature. Wow, this is going to take me on a journey, both intellectually and emotionally. I am prepared for this. Yes, very much so. Take me away, Captain. Beam me the fuck up, Scotty. How many pieces of fiction, literary, filmic, photographic, etc., even musical, have been about that very subject? Every single survival in the wilderness movie is about that. It's about discovering what it means to be human. It's about discovering how small you are in comparison to the rest of the world, to the rest of the universe. That can be a very compelling idea, and has been a very compelling idea, if you are taken on an emotional journey. And, there are going to be people who say, well, Spencer, you're criticizing this movie for not being original enough. Not necessarily. A movie doesn't need to be original necessarily to be good, to be great, in fact. It needs to take you, it needs to fulfill you emotionally. It needs to generate empathy within you. It needs to resonate with you. By the end of it's almost 2 hours, 40 minutes, all it really has to say is, man, nature fucking sucks, don't it? And I'm like, okay, mate. That is so, wow, that's what we were leading up to this entire time? You go through this endurance test with these people you don't like, in a story that is a lot more shallow than the movie and the camera movements seem to think it is. Leonardo DiCaprio, great performance he gives. I think he deserved the Academy Award. I'm glad that he won. But Hugh Glass as a character is one note. And so is pretty much every other character. There is no psychological insight into these people. There's no exploration of the mechanics of who they are. Even the relationship that Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Hugh Glass, has to his son is, well, doesn't actually mean much of anything when you realize the actual Hugh Glass didn't fucking have a son! He didn't have a son! That was entirely fabricated for the purpose of making you feel connected to this story, to these characters, to this journey. And you don't. It's all about, let's put Leonardo DiCaprio through one endurance test after another. And by the end, you get to an ending that... Okay, so here's the thing about the ending. This movie... spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, don't watch further. Tom Hardy and Leonardo DiCaprio, they face down in the snow, and fucking Leonardo DiCaprio gets his revenge. Fantastic, right? Except that never actually happened. That ending in the movie is a total fantasy. The actual Hugh Glass never got his revenge because, to be fair, as is depicted in the movie, Fitzgerald, Tom Hardy's character, he goes off to war. He goes off to join the army, join the military. And at that time, the punishment for killing a soldier, killing a military officer, was death. And so he let him free because he did not want to die, which is an idea that I very much can get on board with. I think you can too. So when I get to the end of this movie, this 2.5 hour journey, and it proves to be just another revenge film, I think, is that seriously all this was? Imagine this. Leonardo DiCaprio over 2.5 hours is put through a blizzard of grotesquerie, a total kind of destruction of his body, his mind, etc. Imagine that, and all he has to hang on to is revenge, is avenging his boy, avenging his son, who was killed in the movie. And he doesn't get it. He goes to the end of the movie and he doesn't get it. That, to me, is a far more stimulating, far more polarizing, far more engaging way to end that movie. It's like, wow, the one thing you were holding on to is now suddenly called into question and now seems a little bit empty, and seems a little bit petty, and seems a little bit inconsequential in the wake of your own survival, of your own life, of your own perseverance. That's how the actual story of Hugh Glass ended. This totally eschews that. It totally creates something that I found pretty Wish Fulfillment-esque, a little bit empty, a little bit... Seriously? The only thing that makes you in any way feel attached to these people, to this movie, is the idea that there is somewhere deep within it some semblance of being connected to history, to reality, that what you are seeing is, on some level or another, based on something that is real. And it betrays you. Now, I know all of this might seem like nitpickery, might seem like high-minded, hair-splitting. But honestly, if you're gonna put me through 2.5 hours of just grisly, pun not intended, violence and utterly joyless experience, I expect all that to be in the name of something a little bit loftier than, say, hey, what is revenge? What is... that's so fucking hackneyed and so not befitting the portent that the movie has about itself. And I hear all the time people, even the director Alejandro González Iñárritu, he says this movie is about the way in which we kind of rape the landscape and the way in which we kind of abuse not just nature but its people, Native Americans. Sure, on some level, yes, that is very admirable, but you don't ultimately pay those ideas anything more than lip service in the movie. What you're still left with is a very hollow, albeit very attractive looking shell. And again, I can't stress this enough, at 2.5 hours, you need to create something that's a little bit weightier, something that has a little bit more to chew on than, goodness me, nature is a beast of its own, isn't it? I'm sorry, mate. For a movie that's $135 million, directed by an Academy Award-winning director, shot by an Academy Award-winning cinematographer, I expected a little bit more. I expected to have more in its mind than that. I expected, all the controversy about how this movie came together, about, Alejandro, he pushed all of his actors and his crew to their limits, both physically and mentally. He insisted that everything be shot in natural light. He went through all of these Herculean deliberateness, if you will, for lack of a more sophisticated way of putting it. All in the name of what? Something that's essentially a Liam Neeson movie. And by the way, there is a Liam Neeson movie called The Grey, which, is about a group of people who were out in the wilderness, and one by one they die, and they try to survive. And that is a far more interesting, far more concise, far more thematically focused piece of filmmaking. And it's far more satisfying than what I saw. In summary, the movie is beautifully directed, the movie is beautifully shot. Alejandro is one of our, great directors, but like is sometimes the case with his other films, the reach exceeds his grasp, I think. I think it is a movie that is long, that is slow, glacial in fact, rather emotionless, joyless, and ultimately rather empty. If that sounds like a good time at the movies to you, by all means, go try it. You may love it. You may find behind its curtains undiscovered truths that simply escaped me. If you do, please comment in this. Please leave a comment. If this is your first time viewing one of my videos, please subscribe. Hopefully, it will be the first of many more to come. No guarantees, of course. Adios. Oh, and since I last saw you, I have become a bona fide film critic. So if you'd like, pay a visit to themoderatevoice.com or cinemaofchange.com to keep up with my work. And if you'd like, follow me on Twitter at Spencer Melita, or if you have a Tumblr, follow me at airbornesubmarines.tumblr.com. Thank you kindly.